Welcome, everybody. This is Starting Out Bright, and I am Noreen Savage. Thank you for being here. And welcome. Just a little bit about myself before we get going. First of all, who I am and who I'm not. I am nobody official with Bright Line Eating. I want to let you know that. But the program I have enjoyed for now almost 3 years. And I wouldn't have found out about it when I did, except for my friend Lori, who posted on Facebook at her 1 year anniversary that she had lost 57 pounds with a program called Bright Line Eating. If anybody was interested, they could ask her for any, information. So my hot little fingers got over to Messenger as fast as they could. And I found out that there was a book by Susan Pierce Thompson, Bright Line Eating. And in the book, Dr. Thompson describes 4 bright lines that you do not cross. No sugar, no flour, 3 meals a day, weighed and measured portions. And to all that, my heart was sunk. I thought there's absolutely no way I could do anything as wild and crazy as that, even though I had been dieting for almost 3 decades. And here I was, 270 pounds. My knees were a mess, so much pain, swollen feet, neuropathy, snoring every night. I was not in a good spot. The one thing I was doing was dieting all the time. But even with all that, I thought this was just too much. But instead, Lori and I got together and she explained more about how she felt about the program, and she suggested 2 things. 1, get the book, and 2, join this private Facebook group called We Eat Bright with Lines. I need another cup of water. And I did that. I got the book. I didn't read it right away, but I got into the Facebook group. And there was the magic. There I saw the people, real live people, losing a lot of weight. Not just 5 or 10 that I was doing every other week, but 20, 50, 100, 150. And they would talk about their strengths, their struggles, their success. And for the first time in a long time, I felt hope rise in me like never before. And I promised myself, I get choked up. I'm sorry. I get so choked up because I promised myself if I lasted 1 year, I would do what my friend Lori did. I would tell the world about my success, and I would help anybody I could. I would post on Facebook. Well, that year was up in the year of the pandemic. Here we were all, at home so much. I'm getting ready to post, and I'm a Christian. God tells me, Noreen, you can do more than that. You could have Zooms. And so that's how this all started. I thought if I could just connect those people who inspired me to those who needed the help and the hope like I did, that would be really great. But where would those people come from? And that's the miracle part, that one by one, a complete stranger reaches out and they have said yes. And so tonight, Dianna Ackerley is in the house. Give it up for Dianna because she said yes to take one for the team. Oh, Dianna, I'm so happy to see you. How are you tonight?
Doing great, doing great. And
We,
I'll go on your lead.
well, we had a chance to talk the other day, and it was wonderful to meet each other. And just to kind of, I told a little bit about my story and my entrance into BLE. If you could just bring us back to where you were, or start wherever you want, and how you got into BLE, and just wherever you want to go with that.
Absolutely. Well, Noreen, thank you. I just want to tell you guys, it's great to be here. It's great to see, I recognize names, that there's, lots of new faces. So, this is really special because, we are here as a community, or, even if there's some, new folks joining, welcome. And like I tell people all the time, it's not easy to do something alone. So this is really great. So I started BLE back in fall of 2020 My daughters, I have two daughters, and they both had done BLE and had been very successful. But I had some health issues. And so, my doctor had said, you really need to work on losing weight. Well, to give you my weight loss history, I went to Weight Watchers when I was 10. So, fast forward up to 62. So you can imagine what my whole life, my whole dieting, life has been like. But so my daughters had recommended, BLE. And so looked at the program and I'm like, yeah, it looks reasonable. And so I started. Now, my story's a little different, and I was a little bit nervous about telling everybody this story, but Noreen, convinced me to just, be open. And so I started BLE and really, got into it, really, started doing the program. But one of the things, that I realized with the program is that, the things that you cannot have in your diet is alcohol. And I was like, okay, at first, because of my health issues too, I was like, yeah, I can give up my, wine and that should be fine. But what I realized is that as I was moving along after a few months in the program, and I had lost about 20 pounds like within a month and a half, and I was feeling really great. But then that little, wine bottle started talking to me, and I was like, oh, and I was like, I could probably just fit in a glass here, that wouldn't be bad. But what I realized is that what ended up happening is that I realized that I had an unhealthy relationship with alcohol. And, and once I took that first glass of wine and the second glass of wine, it came back to haunt me. And, it was eye opening. And I thought, well, no, I just kept saying, I can do this program. And because of the lines, it'll continue to, keep me abstinent, from alcohol, and it should be fine. But, it really was a struggle. It really was a struggle. And so, I realized that I really did have an unhealthy relationship with alcohol. And it was easy to convince myself, like, oh, it was just that glass of wine while I was cooking or this, or, a comfortable, in a setting or with dinner. But, when one glass turned into two, and then I realized the whole bottle was gone, it was like, nah, that's not a really healthy relationship. So I really started looking at that and realized that and learning a lot about who I am and what an addictive brain looks like, whether it's food or alcohol or whatever, maybe something that is has more power over us than we realize. I started talking to some friends that I knew were in recovery programs, and I was like, do you think I need to be there? And they were like, only only and just like with BLE, knowing that we may need something more than just a diet or something, something that asks the why and something that, digs a little bit deeper. So, I had lost, like I said, I'd lost, about 20 pounds and, I kept doing the program and boy, I had, really the automaticity had kicked in. And for those of you that don't understand that or just maybe new to BLE, it's, once you really start doing the program and you understand the amounts and the bright lines and, eating 3 meals a day and the foods, you're able to eat, it just kind of, you get ready to have a meal and you're like, well, I know I need to have, my 4 ounces of protein and my 6 ounces of fruit. And it just kind of kicks in and you're, just doing it just regularly and it's no issue at all. Well, I had, I felt really not conquered, but I had really, uh, sometimes I have a loss for words, but it's hard to believe because I talk. But anyway, I really realized that I had, the program, I had the automaticity going and I had, the bright line eating program was not the problem. It was still, what was haunting me about the alcohol and still that pull to want to continue to drink. And so I realized that what I needed to do for a little while, not, stop BLE, but, just keep doing it. But then, really put more focus into what was going on, underneath and what was happening, and why of, why alcohol had, really become my friend. And, and I could have made, all the reasons in the world, like, oh, it was the pandemic or it was this. But then, when I really looked back in my, in my adulthood, it had been an issue for a while. So anyway, I,
And I think that
oh,
what
sorry.
you're saying, I'm just going to interject
Mhm,
here.
mhm.
Something I'm catching you say that even though you're starting to have this awareness, you are having a big awareness in the middle of staying bright, it sounds
Mhm.
like, which sounds like something quite unusual, because that's what I understand why the limit on alcohol was put in the bright lines in the first place, is
Yeah.
because you can have low-cal drinks, but it's like, what do you do with them? You a lot of times go off your lines. So this this went on for a while, and
Mhm.
but you were losing weight and still in this awareness, right?
Right, but losing weight very slowly, because if I did end up, now granted, obviously, if I drank any alcohol, I wasn't being bright. I mean, I was pretty much basically doing the program, except for, if there was any alcohol I was drinking. And so the weight loss was slow. It was really slow. But what I told myself is that, this program, it has to be helping you. And I'll share in a little bit, how it did help me. On two fronts. It, because the program does talk about the why, and it talks about, our addictive brains, and what happens when, there's those things, those addictive things, whether it's food or alcohol, what happens to us when, if we ate one cookie, or if we take one drink of alcohol, where our brain goes, how it takes off to, this maybe to an uncontrollable place. And I really started focusing on that, whether it was the food or the alcohol, but it's like, I really needed to look at that. So I did get with a counselor, and I also did start listening in a recovery program. And I'm really grateful I did, because it was too easy to think that, well, this program, Bright Line Eating is going to help me to stop this, but they were really two different fronts. And I felt like I really needed to focus again on, how addictive is my behavior. And it's okay. It's okay to own that. It's okay to accept that and get the help I need, because it isn't going to help me if, even if I lost all my weight with Bright Line Eating, and even let's say I was abstinent for a year, and then one day, I was like, hey, let's go celebrate your, 50-pound weight loss. And who knows what that would have done. So I really felt like the alcohol was something I really needed to address. And I'm grateful I did that. And so that's, and I've been on Bright Line Eating ever since, like I said, just, slowly losing. But, oh, I know what I was going to mention too. I forget my thoughts. But, of course, the alcohol wasn't helping anything if I drank beyond a glass or two, because then it was like, well, what goes with alcohol? Well, popcorn and this and all this other stuff. And, you lose all your inhibitions, and then you're like, bright. Yeah, that was not a bright day at all.
Right.
So anyway, it doesn't do wasn't doing anything good for me. So even as good as I had been all day on Bright Line Eating, then would sometimes, break every line in the evening because of whatever,
Right.
whatever was going on in my life, or whatever, I was trying to numb, or,
Did you have
just,
to, and I don't want to get too much into the nitty gritty of your own recovery, but I do have a question about it
Mhm,
logistically.
mhm.
Did you substitute a beverage? Because you do a lot of cooking, and it sounded from our conversation, that's when the wine would come out, is why you're
Yeah,
cooking, right?
yeah.
So did you start doing something different? Like,
Mhm.
okay, what was that?
Yeah, I did. And I know there's different opinions about this. In fact, when I've posted some, different pictures, like I posted a virgin Bloody Mary, and I had some different feedback on that one. But I don't know. It depends on, like, again, where you're at, and for me, it was really good. It was good to, I would have some sparkling water, and I would, like, freeze fruit. And I mean, I would do that, like, during the day, I'd freeze some fruit and just put it in kind of like as ice cubes, or just have, different flavored sparkling waters, and, put a twist of lime in there or whatever, just to put in a fancy glass, and just, and that did really help,
Well, one reason I ask is even just I used to smoke cigarettes. Unfortunately, it's so easy to have that gratification with food. So
Yeah.
even in Susan's blog this week, which was about addiction and the
Mm-hmm.
3 parts, this was something that she was talking about from a conference that she learned with, I think his name was Dr. Paul Early. But it talks about the addiction mode of being in the 3 parts. The first is learning, how can I get into this? Like, where is my stuff? How do I get it? How can I hide it? How can I have this relationship with my stuff? How can I hide it from
Yeah.
people who might not appreciate this? But just even the logistics of learning how and who and where I can get the stuff. When you talk about food, that's it. But, and then you like it and you want it, but you don't necessarily like it so much anymore, but your body wants it, your brain wants it. But then when you do an alternate, the good for you kind of, you switch over to something that's good for you, non-addictive, you actually like that, which is, I think a lot of the self comes out too, that
Mm-hmm.
it is good and healthy
Mm-hmm.
for you, because inherently inside, I think we do know. But unfortunately, and we talked about this, sometimes I think your addiction can go from one thing to the next,
Right.
to the
Right.
next.
And I think that's really what had happened with me. I had dieted for so long, and I, somewhere along the line, I mean, I love to bake, and so somewhere along the line, I got to a point where I could bake and not eat, 12 cookies or whatever, and it was like, okay, but it does happen often that we can just go from one addiction to the other, and it doesn't have to be horrific addictions, but I mean, it could be getting on Amazon and shopping everything because it feels good. Or it could be, I don't know, playing gambling games on your phone. I mean, it could be, there's a lot of things, and only we can answer that. If there's anything, in our life that, a lot of any of the programs are like, one of the first things they ask is that, if you're feeling your life is unmanageable and there's something that is, controlling you, controlling your wellness and your mental well-being and your physical well-being and your relationships and other things in your life, it could possibly be an addiction, and it's something you just have to ask yourself about. And it's hard, but you know what? The great thing about it is all these programs are really exactly the same and really address, what's behind the addiction, whether it's food or alcohol or, shopping on Amazon every single night.
I think
It's just.
I think it's kind of a common, I'll speak for myself. I won't make it that it is common. For me personally, getting into the bright line eating mode, other things came up, because this is not just about the food. Yes, we handle the food, we have to make the food, but it's certainly not just about the food. And so, I mean, I had tears shed about different things of, why I got to that point of using food in that way, with a high dependence on it to somehow fix my emotions. We become into a habit, I think, and then it's breaking that. And it's way more than just about the food, but yeah. So you are now in recovery, Dianna, and that's a beautiful thing.
And one thing that was explained to me that may help, some of you, or even if, maybe if you're dealing, if you have somebody in your life, it may not be you, but maybe somebody you have in your life that you're like, wow, I don't understand. Like, why can't they just stop drinking, or why can't they just stop, taking those painkillers or whatever it may be? And how it was explained to me very simply is that, when we have an addictive brain, there's something chemically that goes on in our brains. And I'm not a doctor, so I'm not going to even begin to try and explain about it. But there's a lot of information out there. But what happens is it's almost like our brains have an allergy to certain things, to certain stimuli that we've brought into our life, and something happens. Like, something happens when we take that first sip or eat that first cookie. It's almost like this, like, okay, life's okay. Okay, you kind of get that little satisfaction, but then it's what happens after that. It's like the one cookie isn't, life threatening, or the one glass of wine isn't life threatening or that bad. But then it's what takes over is the obsession. And that's where it gets dangerous. So, I know, we all want to be bright and sober and, clean or whatever, 100% of the time. We would love that, wouldn't we? That's when we're in heaven, right?
Mhm.
So, I mean, we would love that, but it's more about, kind of walking back and going, okay, does that happen to me? And when it does, like, what's going on? And if I feel like, I don't have control over this, then it's okay to just, to get the help, get the help within Bright Line Eating, get the help in whatever, group or recovery group, or a friend maybe that's dealing with the same thing, because we're all at different stages. So, it doesn't, I'm not going to say like, we're all exactly the same, because we're not. And we all have different things that happen in our life or have happened in our lives. And also genetically, some of it is genetic, that, there is a degree that is passed along, but it's okay. The thing that's great is that whatever it is, there's help out there. And, I just want to encourage anybody, if, you're feeling the same struggle, you can private message me anytime, or, contact Noreen, and she could pass along my information, or if, so anyway, but
That's
I also want to
wonderful.
talk about cooking.
That's wonderful, Diana. And you know what? You said something about, you were to a point of baking and being able to bake for others without eating it. That's just crazy talk. But you know what? Let's talk about cooking, because everybody
Okay.
knows you as Get Healthy Grandma. And if, Diana was saying the other day, you don't have to really talk about my Facebook page or anything. I'm like, are you kidding me? The party's just starting. So if you don't know Diana from her Facebook page or Instagram, you can find her under Get Healthy Grandma. And so let's talk about cooking. Oh, and Deb Babcock's already saying scalloped potatoes. Where do we start? I just have to give you 1 minute to tell about your first baking experience, because that is just too much.
So I said I went to Weight Watchers at 10. Well, this is about when I was doing all my baking, my first baking. But okay, so I was 10 years old, and growing up in Maryland, the giant grocery store sold these great, wonderful Boston cream pies. They're actually a cake. It's like, I won't go into too much description because it'll get us all hungry and thinking the wrong thing. So anyway, I saw the recipe one time. This is what I did as a kid. I flipped through and read cookbooks. How sad. But anyway, that was where my
Your
food
destiny
addiction.
was
That's
right
where my
in
food
front of
addiction
you.
started. But that's where my love of cooking started. So I'll keep it absolutely positive, because it was. So I decided, this is Boston cream pie. I'm going to go ahead and bake it. So I make this, this recipe, and I bake it. And my mom had been out in the garden all day, and she comes back in and she was like, who went to the store to get this cake? She goes, Dad's not even home. And I was like, Mom, I baked it myself. And at first she was so mad, because she's like, you're not allowed to use the stove or the oven without me being here and, watching you. And then she's like, wow, I can't believe you made that. You made that. So
That is
that was my first baking experience, and
unbelievable.
that's where it started.
You
I
know,
I've loved cooking ever since I was a child. My dad was Italian, my mom was German, so I got all the Midwest comfort food cooking going on, and the Italian cooking, and I just love to cook. And then being in a military family and having 4 kids, there were so many events, to cook and bring food and cook for other people, and make food for people, when husbands were deployed or people were having babies. So I just always loved cooking.
well,
Yeah.
and Diana, you were in the Air Force.
I was. Yeah.
Just thank you for your service. Oh my goodness, aircraft maintenance officer. Can you believe that?
No.
And you're still involved with the service, but we'll get to that a little bit later because I think what you're doing now is very cool too. But let's get into the cooking part because it certainly didn't stop with Boston cream pies. I mean, here you are. And I know we talked a little bit that before Bright Line Eating, you were even teaching, cooking the other way
Yeah.
with all the bells and whistles and all the things that we don't have anymore. So how did you do that? How did you transfer all of that knowledge into this kind of cooking like so immediately? Was that
Well,
difficult?
no, actually it wasn't. I just love doing that. A lot of times you don't discover some of your gifts or talents or passions maybe until later on in life, when you have maybe a little more time, or you're just like, I feel like doing something different. But because I always love to cook anyway, I sort of stumbled on the teaching part of it when I was working for Williams Sonoma, and they needed a fill-in chef. And I was like, my very first class, I was like, okay, let's let's break an egg here, and but after, like anything, you practice and you do it, and the more you do it and the more you love it, and it's okay. And they're not going to fire you. And so anyway, that's where the teaching part of it was. And then my girls encouraged me to start a cooking recipe like website, and which I did, and post like family favorite recipes and stuff. So I kind of got that part of it, and it was really fun. But then and I loved doing that. But then when I started Bright Line Eating, I just I didn't want to give all that up, and I thought, well, I could do the same thing. And then how I really started was I was looking at recipes that I love anyway, and I was like, how can I make these bright? How can I make these over? How can I adjust them so that they are in line with the Bright Line Eating program? And that's just what I started doing. And I really found too, the thing that was so cool. I mean, I had to figure out the math with the, proportions, and if I'm doing like 2 servings. And so it was kind of cool. I'm like, wow, my brain still knows math, so it
Yeah.
was great. It was really nice. I felt like it was kind of helping this old brain, like, gear back up. So I really just started doing that. And, people often ask me the type of cook I am. Well, I'm just a home cook. I never had any professional training or anything like that. But I always say that even before Bright Line Eating, I would always look at a recipe and go, I'm going to try and make that. And it didn't matter if it was, Indian cooking or some pastry. I'm like, I'm going to try and make that. And even if I messed it up, I'd try again. But I always challenge myself. Like, I'm like, I mean, and I know cooking can be scary, but I would always just be like, I'm going to try that. I think I could, make that. So now transferring that over to Bright Line Eating, I now look at a recipe and go, I can make that bright. I can make that bright. How can I make that bright?
Yeah.
So that's
How do you, let's talk a little bit about your thought process.
okay.
Like, how would you convert, like, Deb puts in here scalloped potatoes, and we're wondering, the recipe. How do you convert something like that? What's the first thing you think about?
Well, first thing, of course, I look at the ingredients, and there's tons of recipes, just regular recipes that have, sugars and sweeteners in it. Okay. So that's one of the first things I'm like, nope, can't put the sugar in there. But then I look at also not substitutions, but maybe things that, you might be able to put in there. Like if it's for a lunch recipe, might you be able to put in some fruit with it to make it a little, add a little bit of sweetness. But really the truth of the matter is that a lot of recipes have way too much sugar and way too much fat in it. So for example, and Noreen and I were talking about this, I had just posted, the Queen's Jubilee was this last weekend. And so I decided to, I had this recipe for the coronation chicken. And I was like, I'm going to look through that. And this recipe, to make a chicken salad, basically with fruit in it and a little bit of veggies, and for 2 chicken breasts called for 1.5 cups of mayonnaise. And I'm like, no, even if we weren't doing bright line eating, I wouldn't want to make a chicken salad with 1.5 cups of mayonnaise. It's just too much,
Yeah.
So I look at it and I look at the ingredients and I kind of think, well, okay, the ingredients that are listed, how much can I, put in to still keep it bright? But then maybe what can I add? What other things, can I add to maybe give it a little more flavor? Maybe add in some different spices but honestly, most of the time, I don't think it tastes that bad just by cutting back. I think normally some of these recipes just have so much fat and so much. I mean, most potato salad recipes are just like drenched in mayonnaise. And you're like,
Right.
really? Does it have to be like that? You almost lose the flavor of the vegetables, when you do that. So it's really just rethinking, like we're doing, how we eat, the ingredients we can eat, and can we still make really flavorful dishes and meal plans with the food we're allowed to eat? And the answer is yes. Sometimes when people start new eating plans, they're like, oh, I'm going to be so deprived. But there's a lot of little, and I'll share some little tricks and hints, and to make your food really flavorful. So yeah, that's really what I do.
We have people in the chat talking about some of your dishes, like the cheeseburger casserole that came up. Now that to me sounds like just a wonderful alternative to having a cheeseburger on a bun.
Mm-hmm.
What is the secret recipe? I mean, we've got it on the slideshow, but for someone who's listening on podcast right now, what is the thing that makes it the cheeseburger recipe on a salad?
Oh, well, just like I was saying, it's having that same flavor, for your palate, where you eat it and you're like, wow, yum, that tastes like a cheeseburger, but just without the bread. And I love, one of my favorite things to do is make salads like the cheeseburger salad, I think of all these sandwiches, like a muffaletta, or I have a Philly cheesesteak salad. And I was telling Deb, she probably was like, no way. But I was even thinking about making a Chicago hot dog salad. I know that sounds crazy, but there's all those flavors of things that we love to eat that are normally on bread, or they're, a certain type of sandwich, but it's just all those flavors that go into a sandwich that can be put on lettuce and other vegetables, and you still have all those flavors, and you're getting all your veggies, you're just not doing it on bread. That's kind of that whole concept that they came out with, a few years ago about, doing a burger in the lettuce wedge, or doing things, putting it in a wrap of lettuce as opposed to bread. And it's kind of the same concept, but every time I make a new salad, I'm kind of like, ooh, Reuben salad, that sounds great. Yeah, I did. Yeah, the Cuban sandwich. Yep. And I even did a gyro salad. There's some really good gyro meat that Costco has, and then doing like a tzatziki sauce dressing, and it's just all those flavors. So yeah, somebody likes the idea about the Chicago hot dog salad.
Yeah, one thing that I find like lacking in my repertoire, which is a lot from when I cook, is that when I have a salad, the dressing is just like one little tiny bit. And I don't know how to stretch that. What do you suggest for a little bit more flavorful or even more plentiful salad dressing?
Okay, yeah. There are a few recipes I have. I think one was up on the slide for this a buttermilk ranch that I did. And sometimes you might have to sacrifice. Yep, pickle juice. That's one of my my things. You might have to sacrifice just a little bit of yogurt. Yogurt, I mean, gosh, 1 ounce, that's only an eighth of your protein. So it's not a whole lot. You might have to, maybe use something, like I said, like yogurt. But then, yeah, like was mentioned, think of your condiments. Okay, we're allowed pickles. So pickle juice, salsa, even the juice from like the capers, that's really good for like an Italian dressing, all the different vinegars. What I often tell folks, like if they do find like a ranch dressing that they love, like a bottled ranch dressing, just stretch it with vinegar, stretch it with lemon juice, or again, maybe add in some more, add in, some more seasonings and stuff to just kind of give it more of a punch. So maybe it's more that, we're putting this dressing on a salad and it isn't a lot, but maybe it just needs some more flavor to wake it up. So that's a couple of things. Like I said, doing the homemade dressings, maybe using yogurt, sour cream, salsa, the pickle juice, like I said, all the vinegars, but never underestimate good old, oil and vinegar, because we do get, our tablespoon of oil. And then you can add in as much, lemon and vinegar and spices and herbs. And if you really massage your salad first with the oil and then add all these things in, it really, soaks up all those seasonings. And so, I mean, that's how I used to dress my salad, growing up.
So
Was,
you mean
the good
just
old
for
Italian salad,
you
just the
mean,
olive oil and the vinegar and then the spices, and toss it with your hands and you got a delicious salad.
yeah, well, some of the pictures that you gave me and that are on that Get Healthy Grandma, I mean, they are just beyond beautiful. And
Oh,
they're
thank
not
you.
the run-of-the-mill vegetables either that you're looking for. I don't even know all the things, but you're mentioning like artichokes, you're putting in some flavors and textures together. I mean, it's just phenomenal that you are able to do that. So if somebody was just getting started, like really wanting to branch out a little bit, but maybe they're just afraid, just plain, they don't know where to start, what would you suggest if you were teaching a class? Because you are not a stranger to teaching.
Well, for anybody starting out brand new, even when they, come to my site or start asking me questions about cooking, or they're like, or maybe if it isn't just about branching out with the recipes, but, maybe they're like, "Ah, I really don't like to cook." I always recommend that they start, simple, because you don't want to, it takes time. It takes time to learn the measurements and what foods. And then when you start combining foods, just the different amounts. So I always recommend folks start out simple. And then like you're saying, when you branch out, the first thing I tell folks is try different seasonings. Try different herbs, because I think sometimes people go into eating programs thinking, okay, let's have some plain broiled chicken and some boiled broccoli, and we're going to do this for the rest of our life. Not. So, I mean, I tell them, I said, start experimenting with some spice blends, and one of my favorite things to make is chicken tenders. I'm not good at cooking proteins. I usually overcook chicken breasts. So I love using chicken tenderloins, just the raw chicken tenderloins, and seasoning them with different types of seasoning. I've posted lots of different, I have like chicken tenders Italiano, chicken tenders Mexicano, and it's just a matter of using the different seasonings. And then trying different things like, ooh, yeah, truffle salt. Yeah, truffle salt's amazing. One thing I do too sometimes is I just sort of marinate. Marinating is another good thing, like with your proteins, marinating in vinegar and garlic and spices to really let that protein soak up some flavor before you cook it. But I love chicken tenderloins because then, if you guys are if you're a fan of an air fryer or whether you just do it in the oven, so easy to cook, really quick. But I'd say really just start trying different spices, or and just looking at different recipes. You don't have to follow traditional recipes, but maybe if you're like, what does make that chicken from a Mexican restaurant taste so good? And just start looking at the different spices, like, oh, cumin and coriander. Never tried that before. And I'm not saying go out and, spend a gazillion dollars on spices, but, maybe just buy a few new ones and see how you like that, and I mean, that really is what I would recommend. And that goes for vegetables too. I love doing grilled, roasted vegetables. And I make them different all the time, and just use different spices depending on what sounds good.
And you said to me the other day that, well, one thing, I want to get the names of those spice companies that you were talking about. There's a couple of the places that you buy them online, right?
Yeah. Savory Spice Shop I order online, and then also Penzi Spices, and that's just a couple, but those two I really love. A lot of folks get, Trader Joe's has really good spice blends and different, different seasonings. One thing, of course, look and make sure, there's no sugar in there. That's why those barbecue rubs always taste so good. But check the ingredients, make sure there's no sugar in them. And then if you're watching, your if you're watching, your salt content too, also, look and maybe make sure it isn't, way off the scale, with the sodium. But yeah, so those are the two. Deb just put in there. What was that, Deb?
Epicure spices online also.
There's lots of great.
And Penny's has many salt-free spices. I didn't know that. So yes, I would say the spices, the condiments is the crazy thing that we don't even have to count as anything. And
right,
a lemon. Get that information in the book, though, as far as how much of each, or maybe we can put it in Starting Out Bright. Somewhere, or maybe is it on your Get Healthy Grandma page, as far as
no, but I can do a post on that. Because I think a lot of times when I do a recipe, and then I usually put in there, like, don't underestimate your condiments. And a lot of times I'll get somebody, they'll come back, they're like, oh yeah, I always forget about this or that, or and a lot of times, it was mentioned in the chat, pickle juice. If you love pickles, and you can make dressings out of that, or added
do you brine with it? Do you brine with pickle juice?
I do sometimes with my chicken tenders, that I use that, or vinegar. What's great too with pickles and pickle juice? Don't throw away that juice. And it's like, I don't know what's new to do with my vegetables. Slice up your onions, slice up your carrots, throw in some broccoli, put it in your pickle juice, and you have pickled vegetables. I mean, how great, Cassie put, I drink it. I know. My grandmother used to say, you're going to shrivel up if you drink that pickle juice. I'm like, oh, but it tastes so good.
Yes, we had plenty of pickle juice too. So you talked about, you do roasted veggies. Any magic formula with roasted veggies, or you just pop them?
I just kind of have my standard. I don't use my air fryer as much for the veggies, because I usually do a big, huge sheet pan. I'm notorious for overbuying vegetables. That's not a bad thing, right? There's a lot of other things we could overbuy. So, but then usually at some point in my week, I'm like, I got a lot of vegetables I got to do something with. So I'll do a big sheet pan of any sort of vegetables. I'll just mix them up. Sometimes I compartmentalize them, so I have them on, but a lot of times I just throw them together. And my go-to is 400 degrees for 20 to 25 minutes, depending on, how thick the veggies are. Sometimes if I want them, like, let's say I have broccoli or something, I want it kind of crispy, I'll crank it up to 425 to give it a little more of a char maybe, but usually 400 degrees for like 20 to 25 minutes usually does it. So.
And what kind of spices would you use for that?
For that, that's a lot of times where I'll use my fat, I'll just take my little tablespoon of olive oil and toss it, in there. And then I'll use just one of my spice blends. I was kind of sad because my one company, that Savory Spice Shop, used to have this Asian style sprinkle, which was delicious, and they discontinued it. But it had no sugar in it, but it was like sesame seeds. Well, I guess we still kind of have to count sesame seeds, but there weren't a lot. But it was just a nice blend of all these different spices. It was kind of like a milder five spice blend, like Chinese
Okay.
five spice. Or I'll just use good old, Italian seasoning, or Trader Joe's has this really great umami mushroom seasoning that's real good. Yeah, Deb's going, yeah. Yeah, so
And there are
it's just
some pictures of spices on the slideshow that you
Mhm.
gave me, so can go back and study those, and those are some of your go-tos,
And that's
right?
like 1% of the ones I own. If you
See,
want to get really OCD with your spices, I have my traditional ones like my garlic powder, and I have these little white bins on my shelves. I have like the go-to spices, and then I have my spicy spices like my chipotle chili powder, and I have that in one. And then I have kind of my weird spice, not weird, but the ones you don't use all the time, or the blends. So but it's fun because then I'm like, am I feeling traditional, or am I feeling spicy, or am I anyway? So that's just a little added extra.
maybe a place to start, and I haven't done this, but maybe a place to start is to go to Google and say, what can I use umami on? And it probably tells you what it goes with. Or else go to
Oh,
Get Healthy Grandma page.
well, a lot of this is what's really cool too, whether it's a spice or an herb, or yeah, I mean, Googling it, definitely most of them you just flip them over and they have
Oh,
their web page, and almost all of them you click on it and says recipe, and you just click on that. So any ingredient really, like if you have extra of some, marinara sauce. You're like, I don't know, I want to do something a little different. But,
there,
they always have great recipes. So,
there
yeah.
are such great comments in the chat. Trader Joe's, everything but the leftover is a good one.
Hmm.
Um, Barb saying, my slogan now, have vegetables will travel. We can
I
all
love it.
relate to that, right?
That's right.
Oh, I see. I like burlap and barrel spices, and it's Penzi. I love Sunny Francis,
Burlap and
Sunny
barrel.
Paris, and Justice from Penzi's. So this is, a lot of great ideas here. And I'll grab some Epicure spices. So are there any other things that you prep ahead of time or batch cook or anything that you often have in the house for your?
I don't usually batch cook because it's just my husband and me, and so what I do though, what I really like to, and actually when you are just cooking for one or two, this is where this comes in and helps, is taking a pound of ground beef, and I usually take a pound of ground beef and one onion and cook it up, and I have it in my fridge ready to do whatever, make a taco salad with, or throw it, with a little marinara on, zoodles, or the palmini noodles, or whatever. I love having frozen shrimp available in the freezer. You can thaw that in water in a few minutes and stir fry it up with veggies, and it's such a quick go-to protein. Again, the chicken tenders, sometimes I'll just make a big pack of those and have them available, and they're great. You can cut them up and put them on a salad for lunch, or just reheat them a little bit, to have with dinner. Or and it's so funny, our family, we've we're like condiment kings and queens. If you open our refrigerator, we have like 5 mustards, and so I'm always thinking of different free dipping sauces. Like I could put mustard with vinegar with. So I always like with my chicken tenders, it's just call it habit or whatever. I just love dipping chicken tenders in something, and there's a lot of free things you can use to dip them. If it's the Italianos, of course, use your marinara sauce, or just kind of fun. I guess I feel, the reason I do that and do the makeover recipes or that is because I'm the type of person that I want flavor in my food, and I love to cook. And then I don't want to kind of feel that deprivation. I don't want to be eating dry chicken and boiled broccoli all the time,
And
you
you
know?
don't, do you?
Yeah.
Dancing party at Diana's.
But all my parties are potluck. So you guys got to bring your best BLE
Yes,
dish, okay? And then
on
we'll
the
swap
BLE tour.
recipes. Yeah.
BLE tour, yes.
There you go.
Um, there's so much more to talk about, but we're running short on time here. You did talk about easy grabs though, or easy preps. Is that what you're saying? Is just like the the hamburger and onions and those kind of
Yeah,
things?
yeah, the ground beef or ground turkey, just having it already cooked up and seasoned up and ready to, have to just be able to reheat. And even then, I don't necessarily, I mean, I do, I have my pound of ground beef and my, my onion. I weigh the onion usually, and I know we're supposed to weigh it after cooking, but I just kind of know, after I cook all of it, I weigh it and know that it's, probably, well, going to be, I just divide it up into 4 portions, and I know that might be making me skimp a little bit on my protein, but, I'd rather be a little under than, over. I also, yeah, the ground beef or turkey, the shrimp, the chicken. I also usually have, yogurt handy for whatever, whether it's a, dressing or for in the morning. I do get, and I know it's not recommended necessarily, or is, you can in moderation. I do love, sausages and stuff, but I try to find like chicken sausage. Costco has a great chicken breakfast sausage. That is probably one of my, gotta watch foods. It's not triggering. Like I don't want to, eat a whole pound of it, but I do sometimes, have like I said, like chicken sausages, or even if I do a, like if I'm going to do a Chicago dog, I'll probably do it with, I mean, salad. I do it with, turkey franks or all beef franks. And I read all the ingredients. I try to find, the no nitrate ones or the healthier ones. Applegate is one of the companies that has really good, whether it's sausages or, different products that are, non-GMO. And so I research. I don't just, grab the whatever. I really research, and of course always check, sugar content and Applegate. Yeah, they don't have it, their sausages don't have sugar in them.
Where do you
So
get those at?
we get them at our local grocery, but
Okay.
you can look. Sometimes you might have to look at, places like Sprouts or Whole Foods or Wegmans. I know there's different, the different grocery stores around the country, but and I take that back. Applegate does. I think they do have like a maple something thing. So I do take that back. Not all of them are sugar free, but of course, just read the label with any of the ones. So I do like having those handy sometimes. Just I'd rather grab something quick some of the time, occasionally, rather than going, oh, there's only, breaded, chicken nuggets in the freezer. So I don't know. I mean, and I'm not highly recommending it to anybody, whatever you feel is best for you. I just like having it handy occasionally to, be able to grab it if I need
Yeah.
to. Tuna, always tuna, having that on hand, beans. I think sometimes it's the protein that's hard sometimes. We got all our veggies, we got that going on, we got our, allowed dressings and all our condiments and stuff. And it's like protein. I didn't thaw anything. What do I have for my protein? So yeah, just trying to have those different proteins available. And especially when it's hot out and you don't really feel like, revving up the oven. And sorry, because it's 103 here in Texas. So I'm
Yeah.
thinking of, yeah, eggs and tofu. That's an awesome suggestion. Yeah. Just having, I mean, maybe look through and think of those proteins that might be easy to help with your, meal planning or like I said, the quick meals. Because, so we, keep it bright and keep going for the right things.
Well, Diana, I cannot believe the time has gone by so fast. You mentioned in the early part of this that you were still losing weight, even though you had your struggle at the time and awareness of what was going on also with you.
Yeah.
Is that what you consider your non-scale victory, or were there more health benefits than just losing?
I do. I do. It was, it wasn't, and I guess maybe I didn't say that, specifically, is that I really took my eye off the scale because I knew I had a, a bigger issue that I needed to deal with first. So if I would get on the scale and lose, I'd be like, yay, like, yay, yay, it's still working. And that is because of the automaticity that I really had gotten into the program and really known what was good for me. And I do share this also. After a year, when I went back to my doctor, after, doing, my annual blood work and everything. So my doctor sits down and he goes, what have you been doing? And I was like, uh-oh, I'm in trouble again. What am I, I know, okay, it's, this is my come to Jesus meeting again. So, and he goes, your cholesterol went down 60 points. My cholesterol went down from 190 to 130 being on Bright Line eating. And I'm now out of the type 2 diabetes range.
And this was
So
not a lot of weight.
no. It was only, around, like I said, had lost like 20, 25. Yeah. And
Oh,
I was shocked. He was shocked. And, and so even if you're not dealing with another, something else that can't keep you 100% on the program, or even if you're having struggles, just keep moving forward, because whatever you're doing is good for you. It's a lot better than where we were at, right? So I know sometimes we get, we're hard on ourselves and we feel like, oh, if I'm not doing 100%, why do it? But don't think that, because just keep moving forward and keep knowing that whatever you're doing, even if it's 3 bright lines, you're doing it. If that 4th one's hard, and a lot of people, a lot of us work and have families, and it's hard, but do the best you can. And whatever that best is something good,
right.
Again, it's not what we were doing before. So I had to remember that. I had to remember that. Otherwise, that, negative brain would have just been like, oh, but Dianna, you're not. And it's like, no, stop that.
It is not about perfection. It really is about progress, and whatever roadblocks you have to change the mindset that move forward. This whole awareness of what comes spilling out of us. I think we all got here some way. We all got here in our own path some way, and we have to deal with that stuff too. It's not just about the food. It's about multiple things. And as we unpeel like a beautiful onion, it's a beautiful thing. Well,
I just heard, I was just going to say, I heard today something that described it, that we're unfolding like a beautiful rose. So look at it that way.
That's better than the onion
An onion's
analogy.
too stinky. We're beautiful roses that are blossoming into something gorgeous.
Well, Dianna, I got to tell you, this has just been so inspirational to me. I appreciate so much that your willingness to come on and share your story, your vulnerability, and your great information. We have got to get to your Facebook group, and I'm going to give you a spoiler alert. She's working on a cookbook. Yes, everybody waiting some wild applause.
I am. That editing is, I'm like, how many different ways can I do directions on a recipe?
So send her your request by message. And if you can't get to her, get to me and I'll get them to her. So Dianna, any last words before we get going? And what would you say then to somebody who just really wants to start out and do this thing? I mean, you said just
to try, and I mean, well, no, first of all, I'd say, don't look at it as a diet. That's always, I mean, that's said a lot. Try it, because, and first read a lot of the testimonials, read the success stories, because I think that's what helps, especially what I have seen to women, older women, because for women who have, been on this track for our whole lives, you feel like at 60 or 70, what's the point? But I have heard so many success stories, so many. And I think that's the point. And get plugged into a community. It's too hard to do it by yourself. It's more fun to do it with other people too. I mean, and get to know new people and hear their recipes and, and their victories. And when they're having a bad day, being there for them, that's what it's about, So.
Absolutely. Well, Dianna, again, thank you so much.
Thanks, all of you. This is great.
And thanks, everybody. I'm going to close as I do each week. Good night. Stay bright. Don't let the bed bugs bite. Good night, everybody. So, Dianna, how would you like to play 3-Question Thursday?
Noreen, I would love to.
I'm so
What are the
glad.
rules?
We didn't get to this part that I really wanted to, and that is what you do for fun with the military.
Oh, well, when I started teaching classes, I was asked to help these dear, sweet little airmen and airwomen on the Air Force Base here learn how to cook. And I started classes with them, and they were so cute. It was like, and literally we started with, this is an egg. This is how you crack it. And then, but doing that. And then currently I cook at the USO. It's the United Service Organization, which it's these community centers that are there for the military, just as kind of a place to unwind and do activities. But I cook for the troops there a couple times a month, and
Oh my
we call it
goodness.
Wellness Wednesday. But of course, I'm cooking all the grandma comfort foods, so we technically can't call it Wellness Wednesday. So I changed it to Mental Health Wellness Wednesday.
Okay. Well, it is for them, I'm sure, because
Well, that's the thing, because they're like, homemade mac and cheese. I don't think that's Wellness Wednesday. I'm like, to them it is.
nobody's gonna miss mental wellness health day at
I
all.
always have salad, so hey, I can technically call it. It's like, okay, don't eat the other stuff.
Well, that is such great service. Fantastic, Dianna.
It's fun.
Can you tell me about 100-day challenge that you've had in your group? You've been doing 100-day challenge. What is that all about?
So this is kind of selfish, and I apologize for it. But so on Memorial Day, you hear they're always saying Memorial Day, the official start of summer, and and we didn't have anything going on. There wasn't any big barbecue or anything. And I'm like, okay, the official start of summer. And I don't know about you, but I always need kind of these snippets of time to be like, what am I going to be by the end of the summer? Or, the typical one is January 1st, but I'm sorry, I don't do January 1st
Right.
very well. But I was like, it'd be really cool. I think I'm going to challenge myself. And I looked, 100 days from today. And it was like September 6th or 7th. And I was like, that's perfect. That's right after Labor Day. That's like, that'll take me through the 100 days of summer. And then I was like, well, don't just do it by yourself. Why don't you put that on your, Facebook page? And so I did. I was like, okay, anybody out there want to join me? I was like, I really just want to do this, and just a fun way to kind of do summer. And summer always makes me think too of, maybe some fun new activities. I don't know, running through the sprinkler with your grandkids, or going to the pool. And, and I know Brightline talks about bunny slippers and stuff. So I'm not saying like, okay, everybody get out there and you better be working out 6 days a week. It's just like, maybe, what can we do? Maybe some fun new recipes, maybe some fun new
I've noticed you've been
activities.
sharing little stories each day, and it's
Mhm.
been a sweet thing. So Get Healthy Grandma, check it out. It's been fun, and 100-day challenge that Dianna's put out there. Third question. This is for all the money, all the marbles. What
do I win, Noreen?
You get a chance to create another recipe just for this crowd. Okay. What is your favorite mantra?
um, my favorite mantra, and I know you guys are going to be really surprised at this, is you gotta laugh. Life as we know it, especially the last few years, and then some, it's been tough. It's been tough. And life just can come at us, and we never know what can come at us. So I always say you gotta laugh. And really, that's a testament to my mom. My mom, she just loved having fun. Every dinner time was a party, and every birthday was a party. Just, she loved having fun and just laughing. And you gotta laugh. And some days when I'm not having very good days, I'm like, you know what? There's so many videos out there and movies that you could click on and hopefully help you laugh. And so that's my mantra.
Well,
you gotta laugh.
You got to share a little bit. The reason I asked you that is because you shared a picture with me that I almost fell off my chair. And it's on the slideshow for those who are watching by YouTube. But tell a little bit about the crazy picture that you.
Oh, when I was having a bad hair day.
Well, it was a fun hair day.
No, I know. So that's a picture during COVID. my grandkids live in Maryland and I'm in Texas, so we FaceTime a lot. It was Halloween, and so we FaceTimed, and that was my costume. And my granddaughter almost lost it when she saw it. She just kept going, Gigi, how did you get your hair like that? And she was like, I can't believe you did that. And I'm like, and I said, I kept asking her. So it was on Halloween, and I dressed up for my grandkids and FaceTime with them. And, you got to laugh. You got to just make the most of it.
Wow.
But believe me,
Well,
there's a lot in life that, I have to take seriously, but, you got to laugh, or find a friend that will help you to laugh, and you'll feel so much better.
wow, Diane, that is just so fantastic. You are going to be that person for your granddaughter when she gets older and thinks of you.
I hope so.
That's for sure. What a great legacy you are creating. So again, thank you so much for being here, telling your story, and thank you for playing 3-Question Thursday.
Thank you, Noreen, and I'm going to go make a recipe now.
Okay. Good night,
Thank you,
everybody.
guys. Love you
Stay
all. Thank
bright.
you.
Good night.